the human rights violations in Sri Lanka, mentioned in the UN report, the LLRC report, and the NGO Amnesty report?
Well, I was just in Sri Lanka,
Okay.
and I absolutely understand the terrible things that have happened in Sri Lanka, and it is my opinion that they are going to have to be dealt with. The world today will not accept such violations, and definitely there needs to be a resolution of those abuses. You know, I worked in many countries, and in any country where there is conflict, if those people who have committed these abuses are not punished, there will never be healing. So that needs to be dealt with.
How do you think we could pursue these?
Well, the best way is there is the International Criminal Court, and first in Sri Lanka itself, but I think that we need to take these abuses to the International Criminal Court and ask the prosecutor to look into those. Okay. And you know, there is precedent for that. The prosecutor on his own went to Kenya and looked at the abuses there. And I don't understand why he's not doing that in Sri Lanka.
As we know at the moment, the Canadian government has been voicing many strong opinions about the violations in Sri Lanka. So I was just wondering what you think the next proceedings by the government should be.
The government has voiced them, but I believe that they need to put the resources to deal with them. Norway spends a lot of money to deal with these things, and I believe that if the government is serious, then we need to put the resources in to deal with this.
Okay, thank you.
Dear Honourable Ms. Jaffer, so women in Sri Lanka have been violated in many ways, such as rape, torture, abduction, etc. As a nation, we place high priority on issues such as these. How do you feel about this situation in Sri Lanka?
Well, what's happened to the women in Sri Lanka is unacceptable, and I believe that we should use the UN tools such as 1325, 1820, 1889 to hold those who have committed these terrible abuses responsible. But we have to be there in Sri Lanka with the UN to make sure that this has been addressed.
Nice to meet you, Honourable Ms. Jaffer. My question is simple. It's just, as we all know that since the war has ended, Tamils are treated as second-class citizens now. And so my question is, what can Canada do with its international influence to help gain the rights that Tamils have lost? And as an example, maybe sanctions or something like that. But at the same time, the IMF has given Sri Lanka a loan. Well, Canada's influence in contributing to the IMF, how can such actions be allowed?
Well, you know, if we look at history, the reason why this conflict happened is that the Tamils were not being treated equally, and they were just standing up for their rights. And now, for me, it's a regression. We've gone back to the same position, but this time, the community is very much damaged with the abuse, the terrible things that have happened within the Tamil community. So, for me, it's really important that we address the abuses, we address the fact, and Canada is very well placed in the fact that we break Tamils very much into the part of the fabric of Sri Lanka and do a reconciliation. Because sooner or later, the communities are going to have to work together. And instead of having, if we don't deal with it now, it will fester and we'll have another conflict. And Canada is very well placed to deal with a peace process. What we should push in Canada is to set up a peace process, which can handle the reconciliation, we can handle the abuses, and which can sew the communities together. That's the job of Canada.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Jaffer.